You started a career path and have been grinding away, maybe all the way to the top. But you've decided the career you've dedicated your life to isn't the career you want to dedicate your life to. Now is just the beginning. Starting out or starting fresh. It's time to become the work experience kid. What is a visual design unicorn? It's Bryan Riley. A more helpful definition might be a visual designer who can do everything. Bryan's done me a handful of favours over the years. He's designed my website, he finalised the cover art for my book Let's Not Be a Dick Today, and he's whipped up some of my silly ideas and made them look even better than I could ever imagine. And in another favour, Bryan's jumping on the pod to tell us about what he does every day. And I know part of that is working on advertising material for Australia's biggest clients. He's also going to help me figure out if I have what it takes to become a visual design unicorn. Real quick, while we don't have any official sponsors on the pod, I want to promote some of the guests that have been on. And if you're looking to buy or sell a car, save yourself the time and effort. Get Steve Melder to do it for you. He's an automotive buyers and sellers advocate. That's his thing. He's a mechanic by trade as well, so you'll know that if there are any issues, so you don't end up buying a lemon. Unless you want to buy a lemon, I mean, you have free will, so if you want to, you totally can do. Learn more about what Steve does in his episode, and if you want to get in touch with him, or any of the guests for that matter, visit the website, workexperiencekid.com, visit the guests tab, and hit the little button under his name. Now, Bryan Riley, thank you very much for joining us on the pod. I want to learn a little bit about what you do in your career, but first, let's start with what you're currently doing now.
So my background is in design, as you mentioned. In the last 15 or 16 years, I've progressed from design and moved into motion design, which I now work at a Big Six advertising agency as a motion designer and VFX artist.
Cool. So what is that?
A motion designer is someone who takes design elements and animates them essentially, whether it's for TV or social assets or podcasts, for example, and brings them to life.
You're basically, I don't know, thinking of a movie, like there might be a Marvel movie. Are you doing the CGI animation?
CGI is more of the VFX side of things, but coming back to the motion design, that'd be like your title sequence at the beginning or an ending of a movie, if you want to relate it to a Marvel movie. But yeah, when it comes to VFX, that's a lot more involved and a much deeper process.
All right, so how long have you been doing this current role?
So I've been a motion designer and VFX artist for about the last 5 years. I dabbled with animation, or have dabbled with animation for the last sort of 15 years, but took a stronger focus in motion design the last 5 years. And I've learned a lot of new things and applying my craft daily.
All right, so it sounds like you didn't initially set out to become a motion designer. In my notes here, I've got you down as a visual design unicorn, and that's what the title image says on this podcast. You obviously haven't been a motion designer for too long. Tell us your career progression so far.
So my first job was actually as a digital designer. When I was fresh out of studying, I studied for 2 years. When I was fresh out of that, I wanted to put my knowledge and skills to the test. So yeah, my first job was great. It was really diverse. So it had that visual design aspect to it, like that sort of graphic design element, but also the digital side. So the digital space was something I aimed to head towards.
So that was more like website design, that sort of thing?
Yeah, so it involves UI UX design, which is your user interface and user experience design. Also some animation and video editing, and also a little bit of front-end development in that role.
You moved from that into what next?
So my second job was sort of a sideways step. Knowing that I wanted to progress in the motion design side of things, the role I applied for was actually more a UI UX design heavy role. So I stuck that out for about 2 years and decided that no, I want to take more of a motion design focused role. So yeah, I decided to part ways and move on to the next thing.
Okay, so you've made your way through different steps, different roles to end up where you are now. You said you studied for a couple of years. What were you doing there?
I studied a course which is actually a multimedia design course, which was great for me at the time because it covered many aspects. It wasn't just purely design. Obviously, we studied the design elements and principles, which we sort of had down pat from school, but it also covered video, animation, front-end development, a bit of sound design, UI, UX design, copyright, other theoretical elements, which I can't even remember. And yeah, it was great for those 2 years. Learned a lot.
Was that a uni or was that like a TAFE? What kind of institution?
It was actually a TAFE course through Swinburne, and it was really hands-on. Like I never aspired to go to uni because I didn't really want to have my head in a book for multiple years. I wanted something more hands-on, and this course was great for that.
It's surprising how good TAFE is for the rap it gets. If you really got hands on, and you can pretty much walk into any graphic design studio or any design studio and slot very seamlessly into any junior role, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the qualification does help, but you don't necessarily need a qualification to get a design job.
So without one, what might you be doing? How could you squeeze into the industry?
Well, anyone with a strong folio, great technical skills, and proficiency in software, as long as you have that strong portfolio, I don't see why an employer would not hire you.
Okay, fair enough. And a folio is basically, well, I understand a little bit about what that is. A book or a website or something that shows all the work you've worked on previously.
Yeah, so your portfolio could be a physical portfolio, whether it's a book and showing some, graphic design elements, or it could be a website, as you mentioned, and showing off some, interactive elements and yeah, sort of showcasing it through your website.
Okay, interesting. Sorry to distract us on your previous TAFE course. What you're doing now, though, you're doing motion design. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so when I left my second job, a position came up at a Big Six advertising agency. I'd never aspired to work at an advertising agency, but when the role was offered to me, I quickly took it because what stood out with this role was the many different clients that I'd be working on. I think, well, I'll give this a crack and see how we go. And yeah, 10 years later, here I am.
Love it. So what was that job that you signed on for?
I was taken on as a digital designer doing banner ads, EDMs, bit of UI, UX design, doing a bit of front end development with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and a little bit of motion design. But now I've taken that role and shaped it into what I want to be doing now, which is more motion design and VFX, which has been great.
Awesome. I love how you've managed to use all of your skills when you first started there. Everything that you learnt in TAFE, everything you did at those couple of jobs beforehand, you've then walked into an advertising agency. You're the guy. You now make the job your own and pivot into something that you find really interesting, which is awesome. And awesome that your company has done that. A lot of people have to find that opportunity by leaving, but it shows that you work for a great company because they're investing in you like that.
Yeah, definitely.
No day looks the same. You've got different clients. Now, what does your day look like? For example, what might you be working on?
Currently working across a lot of big clients. We work for a large automotive brand, one of the big four banks. And yeah, a typical day could be anything from creating some social media assets or working on a brand campaign or a new TV ad or something like that. It's quite broad. So it's definitely interesting, and every day is just different.
You like the variability of the role. Is that what you love about the industry? I mean, you've been doing it for so many years. What do you love and what keeps bringing you back to the studio every day?
Each job is different, and it's so like you don't know what you're going to be doing when you walk in the door each day. Like it could be a smaller project, or you could be doing multiple smaller projects in one day, or working on one big project for 3 weeks. It's just the nature of the job, but it's definitely interesting, and working with some great people also helps.
Do you get a bit of a buzz when you see your, let's say, that TV ad on TV?
You sort of become a little bit desensitized to it. Like it's good to sort of see everything and point to it out in like a billboard or on TV. It's like, hey, I had a little hand in that. But yeah, you do become a little bit desensitized to it.
Yeah, fair enough. Do you have any standout memories over your career so far?
I had some pretty good Christmas parties over the journey.
Oh, nice. What makes them special?
Just yeah, the people definitely.
The people get better with the more Christmas that's been consumed.
Yeah, definitely. But no sort of standout memories. Just learning a lot from other designers, animators, developers. Yeah, it's just all been great. No sort of negatives there.
That's good that you don't have too many negatives. Are there any negatives about working in the industry?
Advertising agencies are notorious for late nights and working on big pitches and stuff like that. But every now and again you'll have a big couple of days, or have to put in some extra hours. But it hasn't really been that bad for me, I'd say.
Okay, so it's good that there isn't too much you don't like. Obviously, long hours. It's annoying, but bearable. You're painting it like a good industry to be in. Do you have any spectacular failures you can share with me?
Ooh, failures. I guess that would have to be my second job. I wouldn't really call it a failure though, because I learned a lot in the 2 years that I was there.
It's a catch-22, isn't it? I say failure, but failures, the spectacular ones are the ones that help you progress the most, right? You learn a whole lot from it.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But yeah, I learned a hell of a lot when I was there. But not long after I took the role, it was a small design studio of about 4 or 5 people. But not long after I was there, maybe 6 months in, the director decided he wanted to treat the business like a startup and create a piece of software. And I would be the only designer doing the majority of the UX design, UI UX design work, and also animating all the social media assets and sort of marketing this piece of software, which was a huge task. Like this is something that a team of 3 to 4 people would tackle. But yeah, I put in a lot of hard work on this project for probably 12 to 18 months, a lot of overtime and yeah, a lot of work. But slowly but surely, other employees decided to sort of leave one by one. And yeah, the project stalled. But and yeah, I decided to jump ship because I could see the writing was on the wall and went, no, I'm out. So, but yeah, I wouldn't call it a complete failure because I learned a lot, and I learned a lot about the volatility of startups, and yeah, it was interesting for sure.
Thank God you did that TAFE course to give you all that knowledge to do 4 or 5 different roles at the one time. But yeah, as you said, that's not really a failure, is it? That's just maturity or a lesson that you need to learn. Helps you become more mature, helps you know what you like, what you don't like about a job. And at least now when you can see it, if the next role pops up, you can go, nah, I've been there before. I can identify it and it's not me today.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be jumping into another startup anytime soon.
All right, so you helped us learn a bit more about what your role is day to day. Away from like the actual hands on the tools, what is it like being a visual design unicorn?
So a typical day usually starts off with a production whip meeting, which is the team of, the studio team. So us designers, developers, animators, also some producers and production managers, and sort of a general overview of the day and what each person's sort of working on for the day. And then we could be in meetings for, a pre-production meeting or a retrospective meeting for a previous job, or there's no sort of set structure to the day. Obviously you have meeting invites and you go off and do your meetings here and there, but you could be working on one big project. So you go in one day and you just jump straight into it, work your 8 hours doing on that big project for, 2 to 3 weeks, or you could be split up across 4 or 5 smaller jobs for the day and just sort of punch them out and communicate back and forth with your producers and send the job off. They get sent off to the client. And
Just to clarify, a producer is like a project manager?
no, so there's producers, and then also on top of that, there's project managers. I'm not really across what they all do, but they're all wizards, and they're all guns at their jobs. But yeah, I don't know what they do.
They tell you what to do and you do it.
Pretty much.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm going to have to get a producer on so they can tell us what they actually do. You mentioned that you go to meetings. It sounds like you have a good amount of time to actually do your job. You're not just locked in a box all day.
Yeah, we're allocated specific hours. Producers come to us and sort of say, how long do you think this job might take you? And you sort of quote on a job. Obviously, you allow a little bit of extra in case there is a failure or you need to fix something or whatever. But generally, we're given enough time to sort of perfect our craft.
So who are you working with day to day? You've got a producer, you've got a project manager. Do you have other designers? Who else?
I don't do any client facing. I don't have any contact with the client. But that's sort of other people we sort of deal with would be creative team. So usually made up of art directors and copywriters. Those guys put the idea together, and we're the guys that bring it to life. So we could have catch ups with creative teams a couple of times a week, depending on the job. Like it's how long's a piece of string kind of thing. But yeah, it's good to sort of bounce off other creatives and sort of throw ideas around. Like they're receptive to our ideas as well. And
that collaboration makes a whole lot of difference in any job that you do. What do you reckon is the most challenging part of it?
Most challenging would probably be keeping up to date with new technologies and software. Like now with AI being so prevalent, it's just trying to be at the forefront of something that's forever changing. And I'm trying to learn a lot about it at the moment myself, and it's just changing so frequently. It's hard to sort of keep up with it.
I've seen new software as well, moving from are you using Figma, or is Figma a thing people are using?
I'm using Figma a little bit at work. I'm not doing as much UI UX design these days, but the other guys in my team are using it flat out and they love it. They're trying to move away from Adobe sort of software and purely work in Figma, which is becoming more of a standard across the industry for designers for sure. But I'm not a wizard with it. I know how to get through, sort of work in the software. But yeah, it looks like it's a pretty strong piece of software.
That's the most challenging part, finding out new software, learning how to use new software. And I guess you did mention AI. How is AI changing the game for you? Are you incorporating it yet?
Yeah, AI is definitely shaking things up for workflows for sure. Like I'm integrating it more into my workflow. Obviously with like Adobe Firefly, other software like that, like it's making things easier, it's making things harder, it's not doing a great job, it sometimes does a good job. For me, I reckon it's still in its early days. Like there's a long way to go with it.
At the moment, are you using it for like idea generation?
We're using it a lot at the moment for concepting. It's great for that, just to sort of get a quick, like we used to do a lot of research or try and piece things together for a concept. It might take you, half a day to put something together. But with AI, if you've got the right prompts, you can punch out something in a matter of minutes, really. It's definitely good for some things like concepting, but I'm trying to sort of integrate it at the moment into some motion design and some VFX elements at the moment, and I'm getting some mixed results with different AI tools. So for video, I reckon it's still in its early stages, and like there are some elements out there where it's showing strong results, but at the moment, I'm getting a lot of mixed results.
Fair enough. So for the moment, the motion design or visual design industry has a strong future.
I reckon, yeah.
Well, that's good to hear, especially thinking about getting into the industry. I want to see if I have the skills to become a visual design unicorn, even a visual design horse. But if you don't mind me spending a moment talking about Ed Calishaw's latest project, it's helping families connect with other family members. It seems to be most commonly with older people, grandparents, but also older parents. You know they have awesome stories. You know there's something about somebody being locked in a basement for decades. Ed chats with family members and he helps you learn a little bit more, all while creating a souvenir about someone and celebrating their life. The Memory Maker podcast is the project. All you have to do is visit the website workexperiencekit.com, hit the guests tab, find Ed's name, and you can contact him through there. Bryan, help me uncover whether I have what it takes to do what you do. So for me or anyone else looking to head on a visual design path, what advice might you give me or them?
Decide whether you want to be a specialist or a generalist. I would classify myself more as a generalist, knowing, coming back to my studies, doing animation, design, front-end dev, video editing, those sorts of things, whereas you've got specialists who are just a designer, just a video editor, just an animator. I think being a bit more universal puts you in a good position when it comes to finding a job, just because, well, it looks better on your resume, I guess, but if you can be more versatile, the more chance, personally, I think, that you'll find a job.
Well, you seem to have done it if I can call it the long way. Started off general, you've got all this experience, and now you're narrowing your focus.
If you can specialize in one area but still know other aspects of the job, but if you specialize in one area, you can sell yourself better.
That's some good advice. Would you do anything different if you're starting again?
Personally, I don't think I would do anything different. If I was starting in 2025, I'd approach it differently. Not because I regret how I started, but because the tools and expectations have evolved massively since I started in 2009. Back then, design was more static.
So static being like website ads where it's just a picture?
Yeah, sort of static and no motion, or like billboards back then were mostly printed. There were no digital screen. When I say no digital screens, it was still in its early stages of having digital screens and, motion elements in advertising.
Okay, and then what has it turned into?
Motion and interactivity was often seen as like a nice to have, but today it's pretty much a standard.
So are you saying that maybe, sure, you might have some static creative that needs to be made, but that's going to have to explode across an array of different executions. So maybe you can think about what you can make move?
I think motion's it's pretty much a standard today. Like it's harder to get people to sort of engage and get their attention on a static piece of work. Like having motion just gets people's attention, I guess.
And obviously no one has an attention span anymore, so I can only imagine how hard it is to get someone's attention when it's something static. And you can't just put a hat on something anymore or some googly eyes.
No, well, I wish it was that easy.
What skills or traits does a good visual design unicorn have? Obviously, you said the animation side of things, but anything else?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I'd say a sharp eye for detail. Got to keep on top of the latest software and tech. Definitely have to have a good filing system. If you can't put your files properly in a structure, then no one's going to hire you.
You should see how I'm archiving all of the podcast audio. It's a mess, and I'm going to hate myself as I start making more of them.
It's a big pain point of mine. Like, if you can't find a file you're working on 6 months ago, like, it's just a nightmare. Which, you also got to have good communication skills, good time management, and be able to work well in a team. They're the sort of big things for me.
What would you ask someone? Like, I'm coming to you right now asking you how to become a visual design unicorn. Is there anything that you could ask a junior, maybe as they're thinking about going into uni or into TAFE, to see if they should become a visual designer?
I'd ask if you were comfortable receiving critique or feedback on your creative work. That'd be the biggest piece.
That's a big one, because nothing hurts more than putting your heart and soul into a job and for someone just to write. I've had feedback that it was just no full stop.
Yeah, that's harsh.
That's a client who didn't know, who they were dealing with, or, how fragile creatives' egos can be. That was a good lesson for me.
That's something I wish someone had told me sooner. I used to think that, every piece of work you did was good until someone questioned your design choices, and I didn't have the answer. Why did you choose that font or typeface? Why did you pick blue when it could have been green? There's always going to be clients who are super picky or want to put their input into a design. It's inevitable, really, but one of the most important skills you can develop is the ability to explain and justify your design choices. Be ready with a clear and thoughtful answer for them, because if you can back up your decisions with logic, design principles, or brand alignment, it not only builds trust with the client or whoever you're working for, it just shows that your work is intentional and strategic, not just visually appealing.
That's some awesome advice. A couple of times where I've had to deal with designers, I might even just go like, hey, why did you choose that color? And it's just because I'm curious, but they always have seemed like they were offended, or like, hey, I don't like your work, I want to question it. So that's something good for me to learn, and I guess anyone who ever deals with visual designers. Well, I've learned a lot about your job and your industry. Part of this podcast is for me to give a job a go. Do you have any thoughts on what I could do to sink my teeth into this world of yours?
We could get you designing a logo maybe for your podcast.
Okay, so I've got the podcast tile and that sort of thing, which is basically says Work Experience Kid. You're talking in addition to something like that, or are you saying that maybe we should improve that?
You could probably use a logo to say you've got an Instagram page. I'm assuming you have an Instagram page? You have an Instagram page.
Yeah, WEK Podcast.
There you go. Or you could use it for something like that. You could create a logo, whether it's just an icon or an icon with a typeface.
Can I just clarify this? An icon being maybe like an image, and a typeface being letters or words.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
What does a good job look like with this?
Something that's sort of using your current colors of your brand and something that sort of complements your work, I guess.
Do you have any advice before I start this trial?
I suppose your logo, if you were to go down the route and have an icon or a symbol and some text below it or beside it or something like that, you want to be able to use both of those assets individually. The logo should be versatile and feel like a natural evolution of your brand, I guess. And, you could use your icon, say for your Instagram page, but also if you had a business card or something, a physical piece of marketing collateral you wanted to put out with your icon on there or your word mark on there, it should be able to work on its own.
I have no idea where to start with this. So, Bryan, I might have to, work with you to see if you can hold my hand a little bit and get this logo happening.
Yeah, I'm sure we could do that.
You'll be able to hear the results in the trial episode, so make sure you subscribe to the pod so that episode lands in your feed as soon as it's published. And please help me build the podcast by sharing the Work Experience Kid pod with your friends and family. And if you'd like to be interviewed on the pod, volunteer at workexperiencekid.com.